Well, President Trump has been complaining about the media since before he was elected, but this week he cut at the heart of America's best-known news program, claiming he had been treated unfairly and in violation of his own agreement with 60 Minutes. The president released his own version of an interview he had just taped with Lesley Stahl. Adam Riley has more.
Ordinarily, the next episode of 60 Minutes would be must-see TV.
Provocative conversations with the two major party candidates for president.
But Donald Trump isn't an ordinary guy. When Lesley Stahl interviewed him this week, he ended the interview abruptly, then took to Twitter to complain about how badly he'd been treated. Then it was over to Facebook, where he released the full uncut interview himself.
Are you ready for some tough questions?
You're going to be fair.
I'm going to be fair.
Just be fair.
But you're okay with some tough questions?
No, I'm not.
Trump claimed his cut of the interview showed bias, hatred, and rudeness. What it really seemed to show is a president who is allergic to being challenged.
We created the greatest economy in the history of our country, and the other side
You
was
know
coming
that.
in.
You know that's not true.
It is totally true. You wouldn't say that to Biden, what you just said to me.
Even though Stahl's questions weren't as tough as advertised.
You have unemployment claims going up. You have COVID cases going up. I mean, it's like the gods have suddenly decided to conspire against
I
you.
don't think so at all.
Which makes Trump's snit fit especially bizarre.
Yeah, that's enough. Let's go.
In a statement, CBS News says Trump's unprecedented move won't change 60 Minutes' MO. And if the ratings-obsessed president wanted to make fewer people watch this Sunday, he may have done the opposite.
So Dan Lothian, I watched all 37 and a half minutes of the tape he released. I felt a little uncomfortable at times with some of the questions, and not because they were tough. I thought it was odd that Lesley Stahl started the interview with, "Are you ready for some tough questions?" And then I didn't think they were really all that tough, like, questions about wearing a mask and everything. I mean, he's thin-skinned, but what did you think of what you saw?
Well, my initial impression was, why did 60 Minutes do this interview? I know there's a history of 60 Minutes with presidential candidates leading up to elections, but nothing good can come out of this when you're interviewing President Trump. And I almost felt as if they walked right into a trap. It doesn't really matter what they would have done or what kinds of questions they would have asked. I think the president went into this knowing exactly what he wanted to do. And just take when you look at how he ended that interview, I mean, typically it would be you're in the middle of a really tough question. They hit you with another one. You take your mic off, you get up. It almost seemed like that was orchestrated. He turned, okay, we're gonna go, and then he gets up and he ends. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but for me, it felt as if this was just yet another reality show. It was pre-produced.
I don't know. I thought he got really annoyed.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of my sense because he was able to frame it the way he wanted to. It gave him another piece of ammunition.
Discrediting the press this way is a Donald Trump tried and true strategy that goes back to when he was just in real estate in New York City. So I don't think it's anything new for him to attack the press as a way to discredit any interview he doesn't think went well, doesn't think paints him in the best light. I think what's particularly disturbing about the way he went after Stahl, the way he's talked about Savannah Guthrie since that town hall, is that implicit in his critique is that he's owed by women journalists easy questions, what he perceives as softballs. In fact, what he perceives as an opportunity to spin his own narrative of what's happening with the economy, what's happening with the pandemic. And frankly, I agree, Emily, that her questions at many points were not very hard-hitting, and particularly that question that you played in the clip where she says the gods haven't smiled on you. This was not an act of God. This pandemic on our shores. There were warning signs. There was a pandemic playbook left by the previous administration that was ignored by this president, which led to this economic crisis. This is not a matter of fate. It's a matter of poor decision making.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Dan Lothian. I think that President Trump went into this, if not fully prepared to walk out, at least thinking that this is one of the plays that he might pursue. What struck me as being especially odd about this was she began by asking, "Are you ready for some tough questions?" Which I just took as an opportunity to try to break the ice a little bit. Got started. And then at the end, Trump says, "You told me we were going to have a nice conversation, and then I come in here and you said, Are you ready for some tough questions? What kind of a thing is that to say? I mean, it didn't make any sense to me at all. And
well, he was saying over the phone. That's what they told him. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it just had all the earmarks of a setup to me.
I love that we have a conspiracy theory here because that just exemplifies the relationship between Trump and the press. I mean, nobody trusts anybody's motives. Nobody trusts that the other side is going to be straight shooting. Press conferences are wars, and every encounter, presidents never really like dealing with the press, and it's an adversarial relationship by definition. It's a watchdog situation that you're in as a journalist, and so this is just kind of that on steroids. I mean, I was watching the clips of Lesley Stahl and thinking back to the Jonathan Swan Axios on HBO interview, which has become, I think, the gold standard for interviewing Trump in a way where you somehow make him comfortable. Maybe a little bit of flattery is a part of that, but then you nail him with the facts. And I don't know if in the course of those 37 minutes Lesley Stahl does that, but it seems like, and going back to the debate critique as well, having facts at your fingertips to be able to say in real time, you said this, but this is what the truth is, seems like the way to approach a Trump interview.
Bina, as an executive in charge of a newsroom, would you have given permission to, the administration to tape that interview, knowing that there's a very good possibility he might violate an agreement?
I think it's a tough place. I mean, they might have insisted on that. I didn't realize whether they insisted on having their own version of it. I think we're in an environment where there is a lot of mutual distrust, to Joanna's point, where people want their own videos for reasons of making sure that, parts aren't edited out, that they would want to be part of the narrative. Everyone's trying to make their own version of events and own media narrative. And certainly that's what the president does. He looks for memeable moments that then can be out by his campaign.
I don't know about you all, but I'm looking forward to watching the whole thing. Although I want to see whether Lesley Stahl includes that thing about I've got tough questions or how they edit it, because now that we've seen the 37 minutes, we'll see how their version comes out.